All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Broseph303 here. I know I've been... All right, just say it. 3, 2, 1. Hi, it's Broseph303. I can't do the opening. You know what? Fuck it. I can't do it. All right. What's up? This is Broseph303. I know I have not been streaming or doing anything for a significant portion of time, and I figured I would make a video. I just got inspired today to just tell my little story about what happened to me back in January. I had a perforated esophagus, which is a serious medical trauma. A large head of broccoli that I accidentally swallowed lodged directly behind my heart and blew out the back of my esophagus. And yeah, it hurt really bad. Like the worst pain ever. Like the only way I could think of to describe the pain was that if you took the surface of the sun in like a small ball and like just lodged it behind your heart, and then it was like slowly expanding. So yeah, it was by far the worst pain that I ever felt. It was pretty gnarly, I guess. I called 911, but I didn't get in the ambulance because of a combination of things. Number one, mainly being that I'm stupid for not doing it. Number two being at the time I thought that I couldn't afford it, which was entirely not true. In fact, because of my situation where I was at the time out of work and didn't have insurance. I had no income. I was getting ready to cash in my retirement and backpack through Asia, which I still might do once all this gets better, because I still think it's a good idea, and I have quite a bit of money saved away in that account, some of which I've taken out for moving expenses and such, but it's still quite a decent chunk for the time that I've been alive, you know. But I digress. So, I went into the hospital emergency room. I had my parents take me, which was pretty hard on them. But, you know, in retrospect, at the time I was not thinking clearly because all I could think about was pain. So I just was like, I didn't get in the ambulance. I'm going to lie down. Hopefully this will get better. Which it did not. No, it stayed being the worst pain I'd ever felt for about 4 hours. While I was in the emergency room, they did an x-ray and they didn't see anything, and then they did a CAT scan, and then immediately after the CAT scan, I was in emergency surgery. It felt immediate to me, but in my reality, like, time wasn't a thing. There was only pain. But I do remember, like, not believing the doctor when they told me that I was going to have major surgery, and the second doctor came in and was like, look, what do you think, we're going to lie to you? But I didn't want to believe it, right? Even though I was in all that pain, I didn't want to believe that I was hurt that bad. It was weird. It was surreal looking back on it. But then there I went. Like, there was like the CAT scan came back, and the first nurse said, "Call your parents back in," because they had gone to bed because they didn't know what the fuck. So, because I was there for so long, but they came back. They basically just took the bed that I was in and just raised it up, yanked my clothes off, and just rolled me into the fucking surgery. It was crazy. Like, it was like I went from sitting in the bed to lying in the bed. You know, but I wasn't really sitting in the bed. I was like gripping the bed because I was in so much pain. Like, I couldn't even lay down or sit or anything. Like, I was just like, pain, what's happening to me? But then it was like I see the anesthesiologist. She goes, "Hi, I'm going to be your anesthesiologist," and I saw the doors open into the surgery room, and I remember seeing Dr. Joyman, who was my CV surgeon. He was right there. He was all scrubbed up, looking at me, ready to go. And in the back, I saw the two trauma guys, and those guys did the second surgery. So let me walk you through the major surgery portion. So I had a what's called a lapendectomy, I think is the correct term, where they go in through your shoulder and your back, like back here, and cut you open, and then they went inside there because that's the easiest way to get to your esophagus. Because the cardiac surgeon did this surgery, the heart surgeon, because of the adjacency of the esophagus and the heart, and especially where my injury was, which was directly behind the heart. They needed the cardio surgeon to come in. So anyway, they cut my back open really hard, and then they go in there, they clean out all my insides, find any food particles or any stray things that don't belong there, and clean them all out. So Joyman did that. He did a wonderful job. Also, because the hole was like so big, it was like this big, literally this big. He had to take a portion of muscle from between my ribs and use that as like a flap to cover the wound in my esophagus to ensure that when it was healed, when it all scarred together and it healed, that it wouldn't leak anymore because the hole was so big, right? It wasn't like stitches weren't going to fix it. I needed a graft. And then once he was done, the trauma surgeon came in and she cut open my stomach intentionally to make sure that the damage wasn't below the diaphragm, which it wasn't, and to install the feeding tube, which I lived off of for the next 5 months. And once that was done, they stapled me closed, and then I had 2 chest tubes and 2 drainage tubes on the left side, and then I had 1 drainage tube on the right side. So at that point, I had 5 different tubes sticking out of me. But all the surgeries were a 100% success. So, I'm in the ICU, and then after the ICU, the first night I felt a little twinge in my lung. And now I've had asthma basically my entire life, so it felt like the beginning of an asthma attack, like some phlegm in my lung or whatever. And excuse me, that escalated during my recovery. So I'm in the hospital, I'm recovering from this massive, brutal injury. I'm on all kinds of drugs. Tubes are hanging out of me. I'm all jacked up. But it's not getting better. It's getting worse because of this infection that's now growing in my lung. So, after a few days, I'm on oxygen, I'm off oxygen. They're wanting me to do a lot of breathing exercises, but I don't really want to do them or cough out any of the stuff because it hurt to cough so much because of the severity of the injury to my chest. That eventually the lung collapsed, and I was on just one lung, and the phlegm had just filled it up so much that it wasn't working properly anymore. So what are you going to do? Surgery number 3. In I go. So this one was way, way different than the first one, because the first one, I was out completely. And this one, they weren't going to put me all the way out. So I was going to be fully aware, but they were going to fuck me up and give me the drug that they give you in the hospital that makes you forget, which is a thing that exists that I learned about before I went into that surgery. And throughout the whole surgery, I mean, as much as I was aware of all the things that were happening to me, all I could think about is that there was a drug that existed that could make you forget, and the more that they give you, the more that you forget, and that's common in surgery that they give you heavy doses of that shit. Because if you wake up, you sure as hell don't want to remember you waking up with half of your body on the outside. You know what I mean? So it's a good thing, but it's also ridiculous to think that that exists. That's a thing, but it is, and it's good as long as it's not in the wrong hands, right? Like, but if I was like a supervillain, I'd probably like use that, like as a tool if I could get my hands on it. I mean, I'm not a supervillain, of course. I'm just a guy at this point. I used to be a contributing member of society, but now I'm just a guy trying to heal from this horrible experience. So, the second surgery. They got to stick a vacuum tube with a light on it and a spray hose type thing down my throat while I'm awake. They spray like this cherry flavored numbing thing that like numbs your throat and vocal cords and shit. So I didn't feel it, but at the same time, you can't not know that's going on, right? There's a tube down your air hole sucking shit out of your lung. So, after they roto-rooter out all that, they have to stab another chest tube in the front of my chest because I had air behind my lung from when they went around and cleaned it out, and it got into the lung cavity and it caused my lung not to fully inflate, which exacerbated the problem that I had with the infection. So, they got to stab me. And, for anyone who's ever been stabbed, it fucking hurts. And luckily, I had a nice old lady nurse with me, and she was like, you can squeeze my hand, and I squeezed the shit out of her hand. It was ridiculous. So, like, literally, like, chest tube in your fucking chest. Wow. I'll never forget that. Ugh. So, hooray, I can fucking breathe again, right? So, that was essentially the first week I was in the hospital. Now, the second week that I was in the hospital, it was more like I was basically waiting to see if my esophagus was healing enough for me to be able to be released, right? And since I couldn't pay, I had to get on Medicaid. So I had a caseworker who did not do a good job. She got me on Medicaid, but it was the wrong Medicaid. I'll get to that. But anyway, like, I had a case manager. It was her job to put me on Medicaid because I couldn't pay for anything because I was broke and fucked up. So that meant I got regular CAT scans, right? Like once a week, because the CAT scan is how they found out that the problem was in there in the first place. And then I get another CAT scan, and then they say your lungs collapsed. And then the next CAT scan I get, they say your esophagus still isn't healed, and also there is a patch of fluid collecting in the back right of your chest cavity, most likely blood from this trauma, and it's collecting there. It's causing, it's hurting you. So you need to have, surprise, a fourth surgery. So a fourth surgery, this one was really cool, like, to be a part of from a patient's perspective, because it wasn't a surgery that I knew existed. All the other surgeries were like in the surgery room, the clean room with the steel walls and the metal table, very antiseptic, very, clinical. This one was actually in the CAT scan machine because they needed to guide the chest tube to where the liquid was the worst. So, I'm lying halfway on my side in this CAT scan machine while this surgeon is like fucking stabbing the chest tube into my body, just like this one was, except it was back here and it hurt like a bitch every day it was in. But luckily, it wasn't in for very long because it just did its job like hella good right at the start and then got all of it out of there, and finally they yanked it out of me, So that was like week 2. Then week 3 comes along, and the infection people get on board, the infectious disease people. I had a great infectious disease doctor, Dr. Eisen. He comes in because Joyman and him work in the same building, and I had an infection in my lung. So makes sense, right? Because I had like cardio on my main shit. He was the top dog. He was the shot caller. Then I had trauma on my stomach and the feeding tube shit. And then I had cardiopulmonary on my, chest. I had the pulmonary guys or whatever it is, the lung guys, respiratory, you know. And then we had to add infectious disease. So now I have a team, like a literal team of doctors that are all taking care of me. I talk to them every day. They're all really awesome. That was really good. All the nurses were great. I was lucky. Other than like the administration of the hospital, I had a great time. But we'll get to that again. So week 3, I'm just like, getting better and getting hyped and like getting excited to get out of the hospital because I've been here for so long. And I'm like, I want to eat food again, because for the entire time that my esophagus was healing, I was nothing by mouth. And nothing by mouth literally means nothing. You can't even swallow your own spit. You have to rinse and swish and spit out. No water, nothing. Like, my lips chapped to the point where they literally came off, like the outside skin. I did it. I pulled it off in a big one whole piece. Both lips, like, there was like, look, it's my lips. Weird. But that's what happens when you can't drink. So they give you like a sponge, but like I was so fucked up, like I can't be on sponging. I'm on oxycodone and fentanyl and shit. I'm all fucking wilding out. I got tubes all over the goddamn place. So eventually it gets to the point where I'm approved for Medicaid. That's the deciding factor of my removal from the hospital. So it's great. I'm crying. I'm hugging all my doctors. I get out. You have that almost like a prisoner type of feeling when you step outside because I had not been outside for 3 weeks. It was great. I went home and then immediately drove back across town to my barber, where I told him the entire story, and he shaved my beard and fucking cut my hair and shit. Made me feel like a person again. I love that guy. Fucking Steve. You know who you are, Steve. Clip joint. Boom. Aurora. Best barbershop. No hashtag not sponsored. I just go there. But, I mean, it doesn't look like I go there now, but it's because, this is pretty rockin' beard. So, anyway. I get out. I get my hair cut. I get home. They've given me the prep for all the things that I need to remember, for all the different drugs that I have to now inject myself with because I have what they call a PICC line where they have a person come in and stick a line through your arm and then they stick that all the way down into your heart. And it's not supposed to go directly into your heart. It stops like a couple centimeters away because there's like this area right there where it's pretty chill. The blood goes straight past it, so there's not like a swirling effect or anything, so it doesn't affect any of the cells going through. But that actually ended up going in a little too far. They actually set it inside my right ventricle. So I had like a wire going from my arm directly into my heart for a little while before they had to come out and like shorten it by a couple of millimeters to get it out of my heart and into where it was supposed to be. But they have to use a sonogram, like echocardiogram type stuff, like you would use if you're pregnant, to like see the line going into your arm and shit. So it's kind of tricky type. I don't consider it a surgery because he did it while I was watching TV, but that's how they put it in. And then I was on board. I have to give myself antibiotics every 8 hours, because of the infection in my lung. So I get home and I'm lying in bed and I'm waiting for my food and medicine to arrive. And they don't. And So then I am calling the people who are supposed to deliver my medicine to me and my food, and I'm wondering what the fuck. So I'm very upset, of course. Not in the best frame of mind to be arguing with people on the phone about things, but I know I called a lot of people and screamed a lot. And what turns out is my case manager at the hospital I was at fucked up. And I was there 10 years ago for an unrelated incident, just a random having to go to the hospital to get in and get out or whatever. And they used that address and phone number for all my contacts, for every doctor, every doctor that saw me was given the wrong address and phone number by the hospital. And they also set me up with the wrong type of Medicaid, because I needed like general state Medicaid and not the specific Denver Health Medicaid, because I needed to see my doctors who were not at Denver Health. And when that changed, I had to do it myself. When I had to change my Medicaid from Denver Health to General Colorado Medicaid, I wasn't able to be seen by the same at-home, the same at-home company, because they didn't take the other Medicaid. So I got a different company. And then no one told me. And then that company delivered my stuff to the wrong address that was given to them by the hospital. And then when I called the company that I was given the number to over and over and over again, they never answered, because I wasn't one of their customers anymore or something. They didn't care. I was left alone with no food and no medicine. So eventually, by me screaming at the company, a courier came and eventually dropped off the food and medicine that evening. And I had no idea how to use any of it, because it was all different from the shit that I was taught to use at the hospital, because it was a different company. So I couldn't do shit. So they got me on my shit and I still couldn't use it, right? So lame. But what are you going to do? You got to fucking live. So I just took some of the tube feeding stuff that they had brought and just fucking injected it into my intestines and then passed out. So I essentially went from the greatest feeling, like the best day of my life, getting out of the hospital, getting shaved, it was a big deal to me. Like, I really felt good. And it went from that to the worst possible evening, because, they almost killed me. I would have starved to death in my own house. It would have been pretty sad. But, I got through it, and then the nurses came the next day. But that began the next saga of the story. And I'm going to save that for the next video, because I'm a little tired of talking. So you can title this one, WTF Happened to Me, Part 1. There are more parts as this story is ongoing, but you'll get to hear all the fallout from them totally jacking me at the hospital and the second hospital stay, which I've not got to. And, thanks for watching. If you like it, like it. If you subscribe, I can't guarantee that I'll make any more videos, because I'm very sporadic. But I will tell the rest of this story, because it needs to be told while it's all still clear in my mind. I don't want to lose it. So this video is as much for me as for you. Thanks. And I'll see you for part 2. Never get used to get asked all these questions. Oh, fucking XSplit. Fuck you. Alright.